Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon you. Welcome everyone to And She Thrived. We are continuing our interviews with Lisa Firestone on nonviolent communication. Welcome, Lisa. Good morning. How are you today?
Thank you. It's good to be back. Thank you, Samaya.
It's always good to see you. And Lisa has decided today we're going to be focusing on requests. How do we make requests using nonviolent communication and the different types of requests? I'll leave it to you, Lisa.
So when we think of a request, the thing that we normally think of is I'm going to ask you to do something and hopefully you'll do it, right? I have an intention to get an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only one kind of request. And the first thing I want to remember is that if I ask you to do something, if it's a true request and it's not a demand, then I have to be willing to hear a no. And why do I want it to not be a demand, especially if I'm a single mom? Because if I start to force and use power over somebody to get them to do what I do, they will do what I want them to do, but not for reasons that are going to create harmony in our connection, right? Mm-hmm. So there'll be resentment and they'll perform out of obligation, and then typically leads to resentment. So that's one kind of request. So we call that an action request. The other kind of request, that one of the most wonderful things that we teach early on in nonviolence, is what we call a reflection request. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody who I know has very different ideas from me, and I want to make sure that what I'm saying was clear, I might say to you, okay, I've been describing this complicated surgical procedure that you're going to assist me with at the hospital as my partner, whatever. And I'll say, so I'm supposed to do this, this, and this. To make sure I was clear, will you reflect back what you heard me say?
Mm-hmm. So you have the person echo what you've just said to clarify that they've understood you correctly, right?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, would you like to reflect it back? So let's say I've got a procedure of medicinal, you got to do this, then this, and this, and this with the, so, and if it's not something I'm requesting of you, it might be something I'm requesting of someone else. If the nurse is telling me all this medication my child needs, I could stop and say, may I reflect this back to make sure I've got this clear?
Okay. So I can understand how an adult might be amenable to doing that, but I foresee with children, they might not want to do that. They might not want to reflect back.
Yeah, they might not want to. And that would lead to the next request.
Okay.
Which is a connection request. So if there's resistance or a clear no, or something is going on where there's a, let's say it's the child, or perhaps the child's father has no interest in honoring my request, then I would want to do something called a connection request. The connection request being, let me put the agenda aside and create connection here and find out what's going on. And so the way I would do that is to say, well, can you tell me how that was for you to hear? Or, would you reflect, like what's going on when you hear that idea? Or would you like to tell me your thoughts on that, or your feelings, your needs? Remembering that in nonviolence, I'm always to really do the work. Regardless of what someone is saying, I want to listen for the feelings and the needs, the deeper needs, because that's where all the juice is. So when I'm aware, oh, my child is needing, he's needing rest. He doesn't want to cooperate because he's tired and grumpy or whatever. Now I can understand why he might be resisting my request to clean his room or whatever. But perhaps we could do a little role playing here.
So to be clear, if there's a lack of cooperation on the other side, then when you switch to the connection request as the person who's making the request, you really have to put your initial motive aside and be okay with that not actually happening, and to rather focus on the, you could say, the reward or the blessing of the connection, establishing connection.
Oh, I
That
love
is,
the way you said
that
that.
is, that is
Yes,
getting, that's what you are getting. You might not
that's
get
what
what you
you're
wanted.
getting. You're getting the blessing and the reward of connection with another human being, understanding them more deeply, and allowing yourself, to really tune into what matters to them. And then once you actually have that connection, normally there's an opening for what other strategies might work that would meet both your needs.
Okay, I'm just wondering how this would work. Perhaps you have an idea of, not because the child is hungry or tired or something, but just like a very busy, active child, or maybe the child just doesn't want to be told. They don't want to. They want, as you say, everybody wants autonomy. They want choice. Maybe they don't really care to clean up their toys and put things away, even though that's what the parent wants. They wants order and that kind of system in the house. But the child is so strong-willed, they do not, he or she doesn't want to be told what to do.
Oh, I love this opportunity. So this is a great example. So order is very important for mom. And so you've got certain standards around how that looks in your home. And perhaps the
Sorry,
child.
may I interject? It's not only, like, I'm just speaking for myself, of course, people might have other needs there, but it's not only order for my space, but it's also because it stems from the belief, the cognitive frame, the paradigm that I am responsible for rearing a functional human being who will lead a beautiful life as an adult. And so I'm trying to cultivate good habits in my child so that he might grow up and be a certain type of adult. So it's not only for my personal need, but it's also for his greater good.
Right. That's a great point, Samaya. So you want to make sure that he has an understanding and the experience of what it means to be responsible and live an ordered life, so that he can contribute to society and become more empowered in himself. If I got that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, and that was kind of a reflection request, right?
Yes, I just noticed that.
Case in point. So, all right. Well, here's where nonviolence can come into play in a wonderful example. So, okay, so order is really important to you. Now, I don't know if it would be supportive to do a role play around this, or
We
for
could
me
try
to
that
just
for sure.
okay. So would you like to do a little role play where you can be the child and I'll be mom?
Well, I can be mom. I'm better at being mom than being the child.
I'll tell you what, let's just talk it through, because that
Okay.
might be better and that
Okay,
might
sure.
open some doors.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, can you give me all right, can you give me just the observation, remembering OFNR, right? We're going to just start with the observation.
So you mean from the perspective of the mother?
Yes, from the perspective of mom. Let's say I'm the child.
Okay, so if
I'm going to be an NVC child. I'm going to be like a really advanced kid. Okay.
so do I state what the observation is?
Yeah. So the first thing is, what do you
Okay,
notice about the
so
mess?
I noticed that your books are on the floor, your Superman outfit is on the floor, the Lego is in the other corner, you've left your boots lying in the kitchen. That's just the observation, no judgments. That's the observation.
Perfect. Okay, mom, how do you feel about that?
Wow, what an emotionally intelligent child. So how do I feel? I feel I feel flustered. Um,
Mm.
is that a feeling? It is a feeling. I feel flustered. I feel unsettled. Um,
Because you need.
because I need order and
Mm.
system. And maybe I also feel a little of anger since I spent the last 2 hours, the 2 hours this morning cleaning up the place. And now it just looks like it's been like through a tornado. So
Mm.
there's some anger there, or frustration
Mm.
because I need, so it's not only the need for order and system, but it's also maybe the need for, which I think is a bit way too much to ask for a child, but it's the need for some consideration that
Mm.
I'm managing this house by myself and I need my efforts to be respected or at least appreciated. And also, I have a need for collaboration and cooperation and teamwork.
That's what it sounds like, Mom. Like you
Okay.
really would like some support
Yes.
and cooperation and collaboration around the housekeeping. Yes?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So just beginning with those beautiful needs: cooperation, collaboration, support, and order. All right. Well, Mom, I'm hearing how important those things are to you. I'm going to be the most advanced kid here. Um, I'm really feeling, I just, I'm having a hard time understanding because it's just not important to me if my boots are by the door and if my Legos are in the corner. So let me check with you, Mom, and just, would you be willing to reflect what you just heard me say?
So I hear you say that it doesn't bother you that your toys and your books and your clothes and your shoes are lying all over the place. You don't
Mhm.
think that it's that important. Is that a big deal to you?
Yeah, yeah, like it's hard for me, but, and I also want to reflect back what I heard you say, Mom, because, Mom, what I heard you say is that you're really exhausted and you would like some, you would like some support and collaboration around that, keeping this house order, that it is important to you to have that order.
Mhm.
And I'm also wondering, Mom, if it's like, if you just really want to know that I'm going to be a responsible kid when I grow up and that I'm going to become somebody who knows how to keep order and knows how to take care of myself. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
Hmm. So I'm appreciating knowing that, Mom, because I want to be that too. Well, Mom, can we talk about some strategies around this?
Mhm. Please do.
Okay. So one of the things I notice is when I'm in my room, I just love to have freedom. And I don't want to have to keep it clean all the time. It's just so much more fun for me to be like free and play and not have to think about cleaning up because my mind is going so fast and I'm building. And would you be willing to reflect back to me, Mom, what you heard me say?
You enjoy having the freedom to play and use your imagination and be all wild and crazy without having to think about cleaning up all the time.
Yeah, I especially like the wild and crazy part. That was like so me. Thank you, Mom. And I'm wondering if maybe we could come up with an agreement that would meet your needs for order in the house, but still allow me that freedom in my room and that sense of play and maybe just to be responsible for that sense of order in my room. Maybe just like at certain times, but not like all the time. I'm wondering how that sounds to you.
Okay, well, I'm okay with in your room as long as you spend 10 minutes before the end of the day to tidy up your room. I'm okay with that. However, if it's in a shared space, like the kitchen or the living room, then I would like you to put your things away as soon as you are done using that activity.
Okay, so I'd like to reflect that back, make sure I heard you. Is that
Mhm.
okay? So what I heard you say is that the shared space is really important to you, that there's order there. So as long as I keep that shared space clean, you know, it's really okay if my room gets messy. But I heard you say it would be really important for you to know that like 10 minutes before bedtime that I would actually clean up.
Needs to create some order. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just checking in with that. And it feels pretty good, but it feels kind of demanding.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, I have another idea and I want to offer this strategy to you because one of the things that I'm really needing too is I notice that when I have support, I notice, and when I have connection with you, I feel like I can do anything. So I'm wondering, Mom, if I agree to totally keep the part of the house clean and ordered, if you'd be willing, like 10 minutes before bedtime, to support me and like doing that together. If that's something that I can clean up my room and have my mom there and just be talking with you while I'm doing it and getting your suggestions and ideas on where things can go or what your thoughts are, or and then I would feel like really connected to you before I go to sleep. And I'm wondering how that sounds to you.
So may I reflect back?
Yeah.
You would like some connection and cooperation, collaboration when you're cleaning up your room before the evening. And I would be glad to do that. Yes, that's definitely doable. I can do that.
So that would work. Okay. So our new agreement is I agreed to keep the house ordered. And then you agreed to support me by staying connected to me when I clean my room in the last 10 minutes at night.
Hmm.
Deal?
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Jake?
Let's shake on it. Yes.
Thanks, Mom. Oh, I'm kind of noticing I'm touched. I'm curious to see what's going on for you after that.
That sounds great, but it does sound realistic. And I'm going to come with a but, right? Because as you said, you spoke as a very emotionally mature child, but
I
that's in reality, it's not going to go like that. So then do you think that then the adult, the parent, should go through OFNR on her own and follow the same strategies irrespective of his or her response?
So you're asking, should you do OFNR and share it with me?
Like what I'm saying is that the child, which was you basically guided the process.
I
Okay.
did.
So
Yes, of
now the child's not going to do that in reality, right? So then
course.
does she go through that process and say, listen, I would like to talk to you. I'm noticing this. I feel this way.
Yeah, that's a good
What are
question.
my
All
reasons?
right, I think let me share an answer with you. I think that might help just kind of give a good overview on it, which is first of all, now that you're really connected to those needs for order, for cooperation and support and collaboration, my first suggestion would be make sure that when you have this conversation, begin by being very, very tuned into those needs. When you tune in, when we bring our energy to the need of something that we're experiencing is not met, something happens and we can approach a conversation without being reactive and angry. We can really tune into the beauty of that to start. So that's that kind of that self-empathy process, or that you've just received from me the beauty of those needs. Like, just be tuned into them to start. Okay. So that's always whenever we start a difficult conversation, we want to come from a place of self-connection. And the way we do that is tuning into our needs.
Okay. Sorry, were you gonna
So that's
say?
the first part. But go ahead. Yes, question?
Um, my question is that what I think when I hear this is, to be very frank, how difficult it is to get a very busy, active, all over the place child down to a calm, communicative space where this kind of communication can even ensue. Because
Ah,
I'm talking from experience, that
huh,
my personal experience, of course, is that the only really quiet time is basically right before bed, if it's like reading time or cuddle time. And if the child happens to be spending that evening with the father, then she doesn't even have that time.
right,
So,
right,
because you can't just impart information and, oh, I want to talk right now, if the person is not there, the child is not there. So that's
right.
my question, is that how do you make them come down so that then there is this sort of calmness where we can actually truly engage, where you're not distracted or want to grab a sweet or want to run over here or grab this toy or show me this, or do you know what I mean?
Oh, no, I think this is a great question. Okay. So it's kind of, so in terms of the process, I have a thought for you,
Mhm.
and it's based on what I have known in my own child rearing, what I witness in psychology, and also um, it doesn't actually come from an NVC point of view, but I'm happy to share that.
Mhm.
Um, so I'll answer that, and then I'll go back to just finishing that process.
Okay.
So what I noticed is, whenever there is a difficult conversation with a child that could be emotional, um, I've noticed that, like, if you watch 60 Minutes or these special episodes, they'll let the child build blocks or do something as they speak to the child and ask questions. Have you seen it? They'll ask questions. So let's say maybe you're in the kitchen together and you're going to just do something that's mindless, so he can use his fingers.
It's tactile. Mhm.
Yes, tactile, that lets that mind relax a little bit. Like a there's a bit of the prefrontal cortex is focused there, but that allows that the limbic part of our brain to relax a little bit, not feel that fight, flight, freeze with the scary conversation. So I'm wondering if that sounds like an
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds like something to consider for sure.
yeah, I've seen it, and I'm sure there's lots of great research on it, but I have seen it in many, almost any time I've seen an interview of a child, they've got the child doing something.
Even if it's just playing with Play-Doh or
Yes,
yarn or
Play-Doh's
something.
perfect. Yes, something like that. And then to really also, so then the other part is to really let the child know from that calm place where we're connected to our needs. The second part is to really let them, oh, I got something really important mommy wants to talk about, you know? So, um, I, you know, to go ahead and let the child know this is really important to mommy, and I know this is important for us to really establish. So it's not like some fly by night thing that they forget.
Mm.
You know, this is an important conversation. And then, boy, in the conversation like this, the power of the reflection is going to be super, super important with a mother and a child. Because when you reflect back what you hear and you ask for reflection, now you're going there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Does it? Okay. And then to remember that the most beautiful part of MVC is to create that connection before you go into strategies. To really, just before I even begin to think about getting a solution, this is an opportunity for me to connect with my child. Let me just let go of the dirty room for a minute and see what's going on and what's alive in him. And because that child isn't going to do what I just did, making those feelings and needs guesses. Oh, are you frustrated because you really like being free and, like just making those feelings and needs because you really need to feel whatever.
Right. So I was about to ask that if the child, often when you ask a child how they are, they're very dismissive. Oh, fine. It's like especially when you pick them up from school, they don't really say much. So then to try and create that connection, then I suppose the parent should try to make a feelings and needs guess to kind of coax the child into expressing his or herself in that way.
I have heard it said that the greatest gift we can give our children is the language and the awareness of feelings and needs. Because most of us get so disconnected from our feelings and needs. We go through life talking heads, trying to evaluate everything and never really getting to the heart of what matters. Mm-hmm. So the more that we can use language, feelings language, and make those guesses and use those grok cards, those beautiful grok cards that have the feelings words and then they have the needs words. And what a gift, because it is the most empowering way of helping them get self-connected. So even if we're still learning, we can do this. We can do it for ourselves. We can do it for a child. Wondering how that is to hear.
Yeah, sounds promising.
Yeah, I tell you, if I could go back in time, oh my God, I'd be a different parent. But fortunately, I never stopped being a parent, and I do this with my children now. And the relationship, the dynamic of the relationship, I can give testament is really changed. They really trust me, and it's humbling and beautiful. I love it.
Incredible. Is there anything else you were going to say on requests?
No, I think that gave all 3 requests examples. So remembering that there's the first request is well, if we do it in order, you might start with reflection. And then the second is that connection. Well, how is this for you to hear? What's alive in you, and what feelings and needs are you having? And then to move into the strategy with the action.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lisa. It was very useful.
Great. Thank you, Samaya. Hope it's helpful.